My video is still there or no?
Yes.
Mhm.
You can see me? I
Yeah,
can't see me, but can you see the flag?
we can.
Yes.
Let's do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To
to
the
the flag
Flag, to
of
unite
the United States of
of
America,
America and
and
to
to the republic
for which it
for which
stands,
it stands, one nation, under
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible, with
with
liberty.
liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you. Okay, so next order of business is approving the minutes. We have 2 months worth to approve tonight. The meeting for June 29th and meeting of July 27th. Before I start, has anybody got any comments on either of those minutes? Anybody? And I'll speak at once.
No,
No.
Okay. So who's taking the minutes tonight, Ann?
I will be.
Okay, good. All right, so I have a couple of comments on the June 29th minutes, which are pretty minor actually, but on page 1, under old business, energy efficiency projects, community pool. The first sentence reads, Mr. Bombaro advised that the unit was never shut down on the advice of the company. I'd like you to put down the name of the company, which I believe is Aegis, A-E-G-I-S.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay. The second item, bus depot. 1, 2, 3, it looks like the fourth sentence, Mr. O'Gurk reported that Mr. Massiano expressed by email that the contract extension received from DATCO, I believe DATCO has got 2 T's, D-A-T-T-C-O, was very generous and that the request for energy efficiency modifications, it says, were not justified. I don't think that's quite accurate. What he said is that they had been preoccupied with getting a contract extension and they didn't want to mess up the negotiations with a request for paying additional money for the energy efficiency, that they were going to come back and probably do that after the fact. So it's not, I don't want to give the impression that Vince Massiano, or Massiana, is it Massiana with an A?
Massiana. A.
Yeah, correct the spelling on Massiana. He didn't say it wasn't just, they weren't justified. He did say that he didn't want to bring that before DATCO while they were doing the contract negotiations. And later on, it says that Rich Clavette had suggested that they would go back after the fact and make certain energy efficiency improvements. I know it's kind of a long-winded thing, but that, I just want to make sure that we don't make it seem like Vince Massiana doesn't like energy efficiency.
So
Yeah.
you could say,
Michelle did those minutes. So what I'll do is I'll put your comments in these current minutes about that.
Yes. Okay.
hey, we're not appropriate at this time. Something like that.
Okay.
Yes. Right.
didn't want to complicate the negotiation.
Yes. Yes. That's exactly right. Okay. Okay. On page 2, under benchmarking, item 1 under benchmarking, there's a long paragraph there about Professor Amy Thompson. Near the end, it says only consumable deliveries such as oil or water are variable. That, I don't know, that doesn't really make any sense. I think what Dan or whoever commented was trying to say is that oil and water consumption has to be manually input. You're not going to get an automatic download from the vendor, Eversource or whoever. Is that correct, Dan?
That'd be correct. I think the easiest way to go about saying that would be to saying reporting or consumables other than those provided by Eversource or not a automatic update if you were going to change it to anything, because those Eversource are is the only vendor that provides automatic update, and that's both electric and gas. So it
Yep.
does limit the variable there.
Have you got that, Ann?
Yeah, oil and gas are not automatic updates.
Correct. That
No,
to be
oil
manually.
and water, oil and water,
Well, we don't record water there, Dave.
right. But I mean, she said oil and gas is updated.
Well, propane. if there is
Consumables
any.
provided by suppliers other than Eversource. How's that?
Yep. Okay, down under clean energy, item 1, Green Skies Solar Carport, is a statement that Mr. Gankar has advised the production meter seems to be lagging and the inverters are not correlating closely. That's what it says. Basically, there are 2 meters and they're not agreeing. So I don't know which one is the production meter. Is that the one that's showing a lower output, Dan?
I don't recall which direction it was offhand.
The problem is 2 meters and they're recording different production amounts. And that was the observation made in June. And somebody was going to check into it.
That's all squared away.
Okay. And that's all I've got on the June minutes. Is there a motion to accept?
I'll make a
did I
motion
lose-
to accept.
I second.
Okay, with the corrections, any seconded by Dave? That was the motion was made by George, right?
Dan.
By Dan Newton.
Oh, Dan can't make them. Oh, Dan Newton. Okay, I'm sorry.
Mhm.
Okay. And all in favor?
Aye.
Here.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, okay. Good. All right, on the July minutes, does anybody have any comments? No? Okay, let me just quickly go through mine. Under communications, item Roman numeral 5, communications, there's a paragraph about, or in the paragraph, there's a reference to the Energy Star portfolio. It's really the portfolio manager. It's a proper name, Energy Star portfolio manager. So should fix that. It's kind of sandwiched in 2 comments about Bus Depot. So the comment following the Energy Star portfolio manager says that the Energy Commission recommended adding insulation to the building. It's the DATCO building, or the whatever that thing is called.
Trailer?
Bus
The
Depot
trailer, yeah.
trailer.
Yeah, the school bus terminal, the school bus trailer. Okay, and then on page 2, by the way, there's no page numbers on these, but on page 2, under old business, item 6, old business, paragraph 3, Dotted Highland Schools, near the end, it says he. Oh, that's me. Okay. He explained that engineering staff from Amoresco should say and measure, not ant, the annual cost savings to the town. And that's not technically true. It's annual energy savings to the town. Because the cost savings can vary depending on the cost of the energy. The whole idea is units of energy, which is generally kilowatt hours, or I guess CCF of gas, but it's energy savings, not cost savings. And on the next page under benchmarking, there's a reference to the professor from UConn. We've been calling her Professor Thompson, so put her name in there, Professor Thompson from UConn. And there's another sentence that says that Mr. Bombaro stated that a representative from the commission will need to input the oil use data, not data. And then again, there's another comment about the 2 meters not, it says not calculating properly, but they're not, put the same comment that we put in on the June minutes. The meters were not, not displaying the same production values or something like that. And then lastly, no, not lastly, under PVC products, there's a reference to the improvements to the locker room AC system at the Cheshire Police Station. Mr. That was not present. I don't know that he has anything to say about what goes on at the police station, except that
Who was not present? I'm sorry.
Mr. Clavette. And generally, he talked about school projects, not the project at the police station. I believe he is on the PBC, right?
He is.
Yeah.
He's a voting member. He's not a representative of Board of Education. But he may be also,
Hmm.
which is kind of strange.
Well, the fact that he wasn't present at our meeting is really
Right.
irrelevant when talking about the police station, right? Whatever.
Right.
And on the last page, under new business item 7, the first paragraph is A, energy consumption in Heartland Park. The last sentence says he will continue. I think they're talking about Dan. Yeah, Dan Bombaro. He will continue to investigate how the energy consumption is being generated. That's clumsy. It's not, you don't generate energy consumption. It's how is the energy, what's consuming the energy? Or, Dan, what do you want to say?
You could say utilized instead of generated.
Okay, good. And then the last item was the new energy, home energy solutions program, which we'll talk about tonight. But in the second sentence in section C, it says, Mr. O'Gurk explained that the program provides incentives for residents who complete whole house insulation. It really provides increased incentives or additional incentives, which is the whole idea. And it says there's currently not a cost associated with the program, but that's not technically true. There is a cost. There's only not a cost if you haven't had a home energy solutions audit in the last 3 years. So older people who've had older test audits.
But that wasn't said in the meeting, so it couldn't be recorded that way if it wasn't brought up that way. So I can't add to the meetings if we didn't discuss that. You know, the minutes. I can.
Well, I know that we talked about increased incentives. I don't know about that, but okay. So then forget about the not cost associated, but we need to put in additional or extra incentives or whatever, more lucrative incentives.
Okay.
Motion to accept the minutes as amended.
Aye.
By whom?
Gavin made the
Walter.
motion.
And Dave.
And seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Good. All right. Thank you. All right. So we move along to item 5, communications. I'm not aware of any. Is anybody aware of any communications that came to the commission? No? Okay. Rich Clivet didn't make tonight's meeting, right?
No.
Okay. So under old business, item 6, old business, energy efficiency projects. Last time we talked about the blower door test, and Walt has continued to make his offer to do a blower door test for free. What's the status of that, Walt?
I've not heard anything about it. The offer's still open.
Okay, so that's all you can minute on that. And since Rich Clivet isn't on the call or at the meeting, we don't know anything more about the energy efficiency of the new trailer.
Can I make a comment on that? Being that BOE is 70% of the town budget and probably more than 50% of the physical plant of the town, we got to resolve the situation of their representation on the Energy Commission. It's been like 4 or 5 meetings in a row now.
Yeah, I don't know if he's unable to participate remotely or not.
It's on overload. I mean, he's a citizen voting member of the Public Building Commission. He's also an employee of the Board of Education in charge of essentially the plant. So, I mean, we need, and I would say, as I just said, 50 to 70% of our dealings will be with the BOE. We have to make sure that we have continuing representation. We always have.
All right. You can minute that. I'll send a note to Vince Massiana requesting either that Rich, improve his attendance, or that he be replaced by somebody else that can attend our meetings.
Good.
Okay? All right. Yeah, because now we have the DOT and Highland Schools energy analysis, Highland School Government Freezer Project. We don't know what's going on with the lighting at the athletic complex. Let's skip down to 5, energy consumption at Bartland Park. What do you have to say about that, Dan?
Well, Dave brought up obviously that the energy consumption on the Eversource Electric account, as well as he called out an account that was receiving a $50 charge on the gas side. I was able to determine that the gas account was somewhat of a repeat of the meter. The meter was a meter that is no longer in service, and the gas account that it was showing it was connected to is an account that is not paid by the town. That is actually the gas account associated to the concession stand at Bartland Park, which is actually paid for, I believe it's Friends of Cheshire Youth Baseball. So that's on the portfolio manager, merely for the fact that it's on the property. It's not paid for by the town. I do have a line to John Gallick to bring that to the group's attention. And then looking at the Eversource Electric account, I was able to get my hands on an invoice, a recent invoice from there that I'd be happy to send to those interested to take a look at. It does have a $185 bill. It does have notations on it that associate the ball field. It also has a rate 117 on it that is for an unmetered lighting, municipally owned lighting on it. So I believe some of the use here is in part by facility lighting on the in the park, and we'll continue to kind of track back on that as much as we can. Long and short of it is out of a $185 bill, your electrical use is being charged at $57.87. The nut of what that charge was last month was the delivery. So we're making some headway there, towards Dave's goal. It's not 100%, but we're getting there.
Okay. And Dan Knutson, are you on?
Yes.
Do you have anything to report on I Heart My Home?
I found them helpful, but and I think it's, if you do have somebody that needs some help guiding through, to be guided through an energy project, it's a good resource. I'm actually using it. I have a number of rentals and I'm using them myself.
So last month, near the end of the meeting, I told everybody that you might want to talk about this program as it relates to maybe Cheshire residents. Do you think that it's appropriate for Cheshire residents?
Yeah, I think that, I mean, they're welcome to use it.
How do we get the word out?
It's open to Connecticut residents.
So is it like Hess? Is it unlike Hess?
It utilizes Hess. So it's more guiding a homeowner that might not know how to get through all the paperwork to get them in touch with Hess, get an audit, evaluate which energy improvements would have the best payback for them, and to make them aware of the rebates that are out there, and actually help them sign up for it. I mean, it really takes people's hands and brings them all the way through the process.
So Walt Gajewski, you seem to have some experience with Hess, right? I mean, as a
Yeah.
contractor?
Yeah, I
What do you
worked
think
for them for a while. Yeah, the Hess
Well, is
program is good. I have not heard of this I Heart My Home. Is that through the utility program?
No, it's just starting. It's new. It's a few people in New Haven are doing it, and it's really to, I mean, and they got a grant funding to do this, and it's really just to help people take advantage of the utility programs. So, and evaluate.
Is it compatible with Hess? Is it redundant with?
Yes,
Hmm?
absolutely. That's like the
compatible.
first step that they're going to send you through.
Do they have a website, or are they just a bunch of people that are organizing
Yeah.
right now?
Yeah, there's a website. I believe I sent a link in an email to everybody.
Okay.
I could send it again.
Yeah, and I apologize. I got this new computer that doesn't have a mouse on it. It's all, I'm lost with this touchpad.
Okay, well, I'm a little confused as to whether or not we just go right to Hess, which we've done in the past, or we take an intermediate step and try this I Love My House program. So I guess I just don't understand. They sound redundant. Hess is certainly it's a not an EverSource program, but it's a CT Wise Use EnergizeCT.com program. You go on the website EnergizeCT.com. It's all laid out there. So I don't know. But let's talk about the new Hess program. We'll back up. It's item number 6. Did anybody besides me see the correspondence on this? If you're on a Google Groups distribution, in the last 2 or 3 days, there's been lots of emails going around about the availability of this new program. And I've got an email that came out yesterday, and whoever sent it lives in Manchester. So he says, I think it's a he, whatever. Home Energy Solutions program is funded. This is what they have distributed in Manchester so that residents are aware. Is funded by a small fee on our electric bills, is offering free home energy audits until the end of 2020. There are new, more generous rebates for energy efficiency improvements with no cost efficiency work for those who are income eligible, which is a good feature, but I don't know, what percentage of Cheshire residents would fall into that category, but if there are any, it's certainly good to know. There are larger incentive payments for windows, air or ground source heat pumps, or insulation, and the audit includes several free conservation measures during the visit. The program is free if you have not had an audit in the past 36 months. This revised program is designed to make up for the time lost this year because of the pandemic. It includes new safety procedures to cope with COVID-19. One of them is a virtual audit by phone. You can apply for a free home audit by phone, 877-WISE-USE, or online, www.energizect.com. So the Energy Commission was one of the first bodies of our type in the state, funded HES audits way back when, probably, I don't know, 6 years ago, 7 years ago.
Yeah.
I think probably something that we want to continue to push for, and endorse or show our support for. Does anybody have any comments?
Rich, it
Agreed.
sounded like it was somewhat conflicting. At one point you say it's income related, and then later on you say it's free.
Well, the audit, the home energy audit is free for everybody. And then when they say, oh, you could use insulation here, or you might benefit from a air source heat pump, that stuff, that additional stuff, that can be free if your income qualifies, but or there just could be rebates for the majority of Cheshire residents.
In other words,
The
they'll
audit,
study, but the report is,
audit,
they cost you.
excuse me?
What?
The evaluation is free, but the report on the evaluation may cost you.
It definitely will cost you, but you'll get incentives. I mean, you get, it's just like anything else. You don't get anything for nothing, but except for you get the audit for nothing if you haven't had one in the last 3 years.
Oh, okay.
The audit itself, until this came along recently, was up to what? Was it 150? It was 75 for, got up to 150, and there was a requirement that you had to be an electric customer, I believe, but now it's fuel blind. You can heat your house with electricity, natural gas, oil, whatever. So anybody and everybody is eligible to get a free audit if they haven't had one in the last 36 months. The ones that we paid for are certainly older than 3 years, because we subsidized a lot of these audits. I think 1,200, maybe something like that.
Yeah.
But it goes a long time. So I guess the question is, should we put something in the newspaper or on a website somewhere that says the Energy Commission is making Cheshire residents aware of the fact that there's a new improved HES audit program, which is free if you haven't had one recently. And the value of the audit is really in its reduced cost for the improvements that are recommended. They're not free though, unless you're income eligible, but the rebate for the insulation, for example, is like something like 1.5 times what it was previously. So you can get a lot of insulation put in your home for very little money. Like a couple $100 will get you, I don't know, a couple $1,000 of insulation. I don't know the exact numbers. I think I said that last month too, so I don't want to make any promises or whatever. But what you do is you go on to energizect.com or you call 877-WISE-USE and you find out, residents would find out all about it. I think it's certainly a worthwhile initiative, and it's something that we as a commission should get behind.
Definitely, we should promote it.
Well, you know,
It's
this,
not,
I don't know if you guys use it often, but this Cheshire Community Forum on Facebook
Yeah.
seems to have a pretty large following in Cheshire, but I have the vaguest idea
Yeah.
how you get
but,
stuff
but
up.
nobody agrees with anybody. You could say the sky is blue, and they'll say, "Nah, it's not blue, it's pink." Yeah,
But you do
everybody's all
see a lot of public service type of stuff like, for, you know, solar and stuff like that.
Yes,
Yeah,
this
I'm
would
not
be very appropriate.
for
For that.
What's that?
This would be very appropriate for that webpage.
For the Cheshire Community Forum?
Yeah.
You,
Does the Energy Commission have a Facebook page?
there
Rich,
must be another.
what's your Facebook login, Rich? I'll put it out there for you.
Yeah, done there. No. I read the community forum comments every day, and it's not a place to talk about it here. It's just sign on tomorrow, and you'll see what I'm talking about.
No, I
there must-
read them, but you know, sometimes people are just asking who they recommend to cut a lawn or get their nails done or something. So there's that part of it too. It's not just all this back and forth. I don't read those things. I just skim through
Yeah,
those.
here, I don't either. You know, I've learned
But-
how to give that up.
But you know, putting that this program is available, I think would be a good thing for that site. But
Who's the secretary? Now that Paul is not, and Don Nido, who took over for Paul, is not, does anybody aspire to the position of secretary for the commission?
No, I'm substituting.
I mean a commissioner secretary, not a recording secretary, but
Oh, I am the commission secretary.
you are.
I am. I'm 3. I'm the PBC Energy, and
Oh, no. But are you a member of the Energy Commission?
I am not. You must
we
have
need
a secretary here now. Yeah.
Yeah, well, no, because Paul's gone and Don is gone, and nobody seems to be volunteering.
George
Well-
McKeon probably would volunteer, I bet.
Who?
I feel like
George?
I'm learning about this whole thing, so I don't want to jump in over my head yet.
Okay, well, can I at least get a show of support for us supporting that and then advertising it to the public somehow? Does that sound like a good idea?
you want me to put together a paragraph or something for like a press release paragraph?
Yes,
And I'll send it to you, and I'll get the
Okay.
down off the website. Okay, I'll do that.
And-
okay.
Walter, I bet you HES already has a
Right.
Facebook spiel already put together.
Because you do get free stuff. I mean, you get the light bulbs, you get the blower door test, you get they seal leaks. That's all part of the free audit, I think.
that's what they said when they're talking about, somewhere they talked about getting free. Oh, I don't know. Who cares? Yes, you're right. They were installing LED, not installing, but giving LED light bulbs. There used to be like you got 6, and I think they got up to something like 20, or they could retrofit every light bulb in your house. I mean, they got very generous with the LED light bulbs. They gave flow restrictors for shower heads. I don't know if they still do. And certainly a lot of advice on how to save energy and save money.
Yeah, and the big deal is getting that blower door run on your house. And then, because
Yeah.
that's a diagnostic tool that finds a lot of problems.
Yeah.
That's really the key.
Yeah, they did a certain amount of weather, what do you call it? Weather stripping or not stripping, caulking, or they did a lot of caulking window doors stuff. And that was all done for free.
And
Okay.
the difference between I Heart Your Home, I mean, they're gonna start with that HES audit, and then people will be presented with all these opportunities to do different, energy efficiency measures, and they might be overwhelmed, and they might not have a good idea where they should go from there. So this is a kind of guidance on which would have the best rate of return for you to do next, if you want to do next, and kind of come up with a plan with you for how to proceed. And then also walk you through the process of getting those rebates, because it's not simple. I mean, it's confusing.
Okay, so we haven't discounted the I Love My Home or I Heart My Home yet, but I don't know. You said you could send or resend information on that to everybody.
Sure.
Make sure you send it at least to Walt.
I will look
Gajewski.
at it this time, yes.
You can incorporate that. Okay. All right. Benchmarking. Energy Star Portfolio Manager. Well, we could probably just jump right to item number 2, the Portfolio Manager WebEx presentation. I participated. George did. Dave tried to.
Oh, I was there.
Dan. Yeah, but you didn't want to set up your own account.
No,
Walt,
I use Walter G. Gancar's account.
yeah. And Walt Gajewski? No, you didn't.
No,
you
they
didn't.
changed the time on me, and I lost the email, or no, I didn't get on there, unfortunately.
All right. Well, almost all of us joined in on the WebEx, and Professor Thompson and her assistant actually did a great job, I thought, in walking us through how to use the Portfolio Manager software, which is an Energy Star product. And while we were on the phone call or the WebEx, most of us, I think, except for maybe Dave, set up a read-only access to the database. So George, you got yours set up, right? And Dan?
Correct.
Dan Barrow did too, right? And Dan Knudsen, you did too?
No, I didn't make the webinar.
Okay. Well, that's too bad.
Thing that I could look through?
I don't know. She said that she would give us a while, several weeks, to play around with it.
Okay.
And then she would give us another session. So Dan Bombaro, you might want to see what her availability to do that is.
Yeah,
it's
I
even
could see if she has the recording available, if she was able to record it and see if it's available. She could also send, other folks the link to try to make an account, which was pretty seamless for those of us that were able to do it. And then, you know, again, you can take a look through it and see what it is.
Okay, thank you.
Be done, I don't know if it could be done without any assistance, because even when she was explaining how to do it and her graduate assistant was explaining, it was a little bit difficult. I mean, I got it done, so it's not impossible, but I got in afterwards and played around with it. And if you don't play around with it, you know, you'll never get it. It's just, you've got to get in, you got to get used to it. You got to know where, you know, what's in there, how you manipulate it.
I believe we need them though to set up the read-only account anyways, correct?
No, ours is.
They have to accept it. Yeah, they have to. Once you
Oh,
set it up, you could. I mean, that was jumping into it as, you know, once you're set up, they can send you the link, and we could probably get them to do that even before the meeting.
I think we could do that too, though, right? Aren't we able to share?
Dave,
Like,
I think we could try out, see if we could share with anybody. But Dave, I think they were going to set him up with the administrative ability, the ability to manipulate.
Yeah, but I'm not sure I want that. I'd rather have you have that, Dan, really.
Well, it's something for the commission to manage. It's somebody else, if not
Really?
you. Yeah.
A young mind.
all right, well, I'm sensing a little pushback from our liaison, but you know, it's nothing to be decided here.
Yeah.
We,
could,
yeah,
I've had access to it using Walter Gancars's passwords for several years now, and you know, I know my way around it, but I am very leery on changing parameters without full concurrence from the town, or entering information that I have to get from the town anyway. And you know, like oil and maybe eventually water or something like that, but propane. And you know, square footage of buildings and floor plans and
All that
all
information.
that information has to come from the town.
That was all updated. The only thing that would have to be manually updated would be, as they were suggesting, would be the maybe quarterly input of any of the oil slips that might come in. I mean,
Well,
as Rich said, that's not something that has to be decided tonight.
So, I mean, that, right, and that's something I could get from finance, I guess, if I had to.
The slips, they come both. We can either get them through finance or Public Works. The staff in Public
Right.
Works has availability.
I mean, Rich was suggesting some changes in the square footage of the pool.
Again, yeah, and I reached out to Amy Thompson on that, and she changed the pool to a lap pool. However, the building footage, the square footage of the building, to change that, they felt on their end it would, you know, they hold the overall number, the square footage number on the building, because the energy is being consumed in part by not only the pool area but also the main part of the building. So
Right, and there's only
if you
one,
change that square footage, it would actually be detrimental towards your Energy Star, your numbers.
right, and the only reason it's so out of bounds really is its volume rather than its square footage. So, you know, I could work with that, you know?
okay, so the pool is a good example. I went in there and I played around with the pool metrics, which before I went in there didn't seem to make a lot of sense. They were, and when you compare it to the average pool or building of its size and use, it was way more, or it had an unfavorable variance. And I looked and I saw that the baseline that they were using was 2015 or something, at which point we didn't have the current structure, and I think there might have been a bubble at that time, not the rigid structure. So I changed the baseline to June of 2019 and compared this current year to the previous year. And you can see very clearly that there's a significant improvement in energy use, cost, and the metric of that, whatever that metric is called, how it compares to other buildings. So the baseline is important, not just the square footage and the type of facility it is, but it's that theory of relativity. What are you comparing it to? If you compare the pool today to the pool from 2015, you're gonna get nonsense results. You compare it to something more meaningful, like last year, you get very very interesting results.
Right,
It's
because the pool in
clear
2015 didn't have there was no bubble in place. It was open air. They weren't heating
that
it.
whatever.
There's so much there, and knowing what you're looking at as you do, I mean, that helps in understanding that the baseline that they have is inaccurate when you're comparing.
No, if
Right.
you look at the baseline they're using is 2008 and versus 2019, and the key feature that that is that our cost has been reduced by half. We've cut the cost of energy to the pool in half since that time, and that's a combination of good gas contracts and the better building. And I mean, that's an important consideration. I don't know if they, for instance, they don't have a category called Natorium. Basically, the buildings they're comparing to are high school added buildings, which have low ceilings, etc. So, I mean, it's not really appropriate to try and judge a Natorium type with a 130-foot ceiling and a million square cubic feet versus a high school pool, etc. See, there's really
Right, well,
actually pools are not even considered Energy Star rateable. But right, you're
the only thing
right.
I'm
I mean,
what I'm trying to communicate is that we should make sure that the baselines are appropriate for our comparison of how we're doing on our energy efficiency programs.
right, and that's very important. Like for police stations, we're like 1.5 times as expensive as most police stations, and then for that office area that we call the trailer for the transportation, it's 500% more expensive than the typical square footage of office area. So I mean, that's those are targets.
Right. I didn't go back and look at the baseline for the police station or any other metrics or not metrics, but parameters that they've got in there for the police station.
Yeah,
But
you can rate. You click the Cheshire Energy top there, and it'll give you top to bottom. And of course, some of them aren't relevant, like pump stations and street lights, because the footage you assign to them is irrelevant. Like we assign 1 square foot to street lights, and maybe if you assign the area they lit, it'd be a much lower number. But in any case, street lights aren't a relevant of office building. The Energy Star portfolio managers design more for office buildings or for home buildings. But for
what do we want to use the portfolio manager tool for? To compare us to other similar buildings throughout the country, or do we want to just gauge our own progress and compare ourselves to ourselves and earlier ourselves?
The main comparison category is square footage. And
no, what I'm asking, we can decide whether we want to use the tool. It's a benchmarking tool, basically. That's what it comes under the topic of benchmarking. But do we really want to benchmark against a police station in Kansas, or do we really care? Or do we want to just benchmark against ourselves? Do we want to benchmark today's police station against last year's police station?
Oh, you
see
can
whether
do that. Yeah, you can certainly do that.
But what makes more sense, I guess?
Yeah, but I
makes more?
you should also, I mean, since it's weather normalized, you can compare. I guess you can various areas of U.S. and Canada, but it's weather corrected wind factors, degree days corrected, et cetera.
Yeah, I get that. Let me ask it again, one more time. Do we want to use the tool to gauge our progress or lack of it on our own buildings by looking at Cheshire High School today versus Cheshire High School 2 years ago? Or do we want to look at Cheshire High School versus Southington High School? Or some high school in Colorado? I mean, what's more important to us? To know what progress we're making, if any, in our own climate, in our own school that doesn't change the square footage, it's fixed? Or do we want to compare ourselves to some other city or town? What makes more sense?
Yes,
Yes.
we can do both without much
Well,
trouble.
you can't do
You want
both.
Priorities.
How can you can't do both with the pool? You just said that the natatorium doesn't have an Energy Star rating, and a bubble is not the same as an addition to a high school, and yada yada yada.
Yeah, I
So
mean, but
what's
I can tell you that we cut the cost of energy for the pool by 50% and since 2008, and a
Right,
lot
well,
of that is due to the cost of natural gas. But
I'm going to vote for using the tool primarily to gauge how much progress we're making with our energy efficiency projects. Because pool's not going to change probably, in the foreseeable future. We can compare today's energy consumption to last year because the pool dimensions didn't change and the building size didn't change, and so the rigid structure, nothing changed except for the energy consumption. So we should be able to see. And if you go in there and you do it yourself, this is why you two guys here that the Walt and the Dan that didn't sign up, if you had the ability to go in there, you could see and you could play around with the numbers yourself, and you can come up with all kinds of scenarios.
right, I mean, you wouldn't want to use this year because the pool was shut down for 2 or 3 months. But you certainly can juggle. I mean, you can see year by year from 2008 onward for the pool or most every structure.
Well, actually, you could look at this year, and you could somebody's going to say, well, what effect did COVID-19 have on the pool energy consumption? You could
Right,
just
and
dial it up and say,
I could
we
tell.
used 15% less energy, or whatever it is. Okay, we need to move along. The carport at the police station. That would be item 6D, clean energy. Has anybody bothered to click on that link and look at the meter?
Yeah, I looked at it right before the meeting. And it looks like the two curves are lining up now very closely, the inverter curve and the other curve.
So Dan fixed it, right?
Yeah, I went out there myself. No, they went out there, and that was actually a bad wire termination that was causing the issue. They've resolved the wire termination. One acts as a fail-safe for the other, so they weren't as concerned as we were obviously about it, because one really just acts as a backup to the other. So they did fix the issue, and they're back up in even numbers.
Where does Green Skies get the production data so that they can, bill us or Eversource or whatever?
That also energy kiosk that we have access to. There's a backside to that, I believe, that is how they view the meter production.
But were the production numbers that they used correct? Did they use the correct meter?
The invoice for what would have come as a result of that, I haven't seen that, so I can compare what they were reading to what we were being charged. Long and short is, go ahead.
In the past, one meter was only registering 60 or 70% of what the other meter was registering. So it's important for Green Skies to get the correct production to what? They're not billing us, right? Yeah.
They do
How
bill.
does it work? They're
They,
billing us.
yeah, so the carport's in place. They produce the energy. We have power purchase agreement with them at the fixed rate.
We don't use all the energy from that.
That's
do we?
100% consumption at the police department.
There you go. All right. So it's important that they have the correct production number. It would be nice if they were using the,
The correct lower number. Only for billing.
right. Okay. So you get what I'm trying to say.
I do.
But it's fixed. That's good.
That is.
Okay. All right. So now we get the PBC projects. I guess the item that we referred to earlier, the improvements for the locker rooms and the HVAC systems at the police station, that's still an outstanding item, I guess. Does anybody have anything to say about that? Dan, do you know anything about it? What's going on?
I could follow up and get you an update on it. I mean, as you're aware, George has shared the last two that have come up through design. I could check to see the status on the locker room for you and shoot you guys an email. You can share with the group as to the status and when plans are available. You know, I've talked to George and, you know, we'll be shooting them down to you for your comments. My suggestion, I know Dave provided a comment. My suggestion with comments is that you know, kind of come up with a collective memo to provide. Either you can provide it directly to the PBC or I can get it to them through our department.
Yeah,
Okay.
I looked today and I guess they've selected a A&E firm, but I don't think they're going to be coming out with a RFP for a contractor till
I think that's a next year project.
yeah.
You're talking about the police station. Okay.
Yeah.
The second item was the boiler installation at the fire department, and George sent out plans and specs again this afternoon. I forwarded them to you guys this afternoon or just before the meeting, and the design is complete and signed off on, I guess, and the contractor has been selected. We still have a chance to comment if you want to. I know Dave, you commented on the lock and bar boiler not appearing to be an Energy Star boiler. I guess I don't know if they even have a rating, an Energy Star rating for the boilers.
I believe Dave, George followed up. George Nowotny followed up to that and provided the information that was Dave was.
Okay.
It looked like it's an efficient boiler. The one they selected is 94% efficient. You know, it's a condensed boiler, and it's got appropriate software. Maybe it doesn't carry that Energy Star tag. I don't know what extra you get for that, but
yeah,
it seems to be
and they are
efficient product.
They expect to get a $4,000 rebate, which I don't know what percent of the total cost that is, but you know they're doing the right thing. They're starting to share the plans and specs. Dave, you had a couple of comments. I saw again that 94% efficiency is pretty darn good. So that's good. And Dan, to what extent you've been able to get them to share the specs is, I appreciate that. That's good work. Okay, energy. Item G, the energy reliability. It seems like every other week we have a major storm and it knocks down a lot of trees and creates a lot of havoc. Not quite sure why that is because they've been doing tree trimming in town for several years now. It's not just branches that are coming down on the wires, it's the entire tree. So I don't know what else they can do. I know George wanted to have a discussion tonight about Eversource's response to not this most recent storm, but the one prior. So I don't want to speak for you, George. Why don't you have some ideas or concerns or?
Well, I don't know what this commission is actually capable of, but I don't know how you guys felt about the response to the EverSource power outage. I felt like Cheshire actually did a very good job. We cleared a lot of the trees. It seems like Cheshire had everything all set, and then EverSource, it took them, I would say, quite a while. I didn't have power for, I think it was about a week. I don't know, but I know it was a very bad storm, so I don't know exactly what we should expect. But I was comparing ourselves to our neighbors, Wallingford, who seem to have power right back up almost right away. I know they have their own electric company, Wallingford Power. And in the areas that were not in the EverSource grid in Connecticut seem to be getting power. I was trying to keep track of everything, but I don't know. It's really hard to say. I don't know what our options would even be besides, I mean, form our own power company, which is unrealistic. So I don't even know.
Yeah,
Or-
I know that Liz Linehan has been working on this with other legislators. I know EverSource had some explaining to do, and I don't know where it stands. And honestly, I don't know if they could have done a better job. I don't know if it's fair to compare Wallingford Electric with EverSource, with UI, and there's other municipal electric operations in the state of Connecticut. Groton, I think, is one. So I don't know. I mean, did the storm hit Wallingford as badly as it hit Cheshire, or did it hit Cheshire 10 times worse? I don't know. I just don't know. And I can't speak for EverSource. A lot of upset people.
what can we even
I only
do
lost
though?
days.
I think EverSource has made a concerted effort to outsource most of their labor, whereas much more than UI. So they don't have the staff that has knowledge of the lines in towns or as much. So I think it's like their policy to avoid paying pensions.
I don't know if it's a fact or I don't know. You know, I hear you say it. I don't know that I personally don't know if that's true or false. It could be an assumption. Maybe it makes sense. I do know if you see a lot of non-EverSource vehicles and personnel out working, that's called mutual aid.
Yep.
And
I'm not talking about that.
When you have a severe storm, you're going to get, most likely, are going to get workers from Maine or, you know, Virginia or all over the country. In fact, EverSource, when it was Northeast Utilities, used to send workers and equipment to like Puerto Rico or Haiti or whatever. So I don't know. I don't know what EverSource is doing today. I don't know if they're taking it on the chin rightfully or wrongfully. I don't know. But I'm not sure that that's our thing to worry about anyway. I think we could minute that, you know, I guess the concern I had would be there is a reliability program.
Oh,
We talk about it every month about tree trimming. But, you know, I'm sure some of the problems were related to limbs coming down. But you all drove around town and saw trees down across roads, and all the tree trimming in the world's not going to fix that.
I
So-
also saw a number of tree crews sitting for hours, like 5-6 hours at the site with the down trees, waiting for an EverSource personnel to come and say, yes, we want those trees cut. The lines are safe. You can cut. So the EverSource didn't have the supervision to handle the tree service personnel that they had sitting around or had sitting at different sites. I mean, that happened both on my street. That happened on Whitney Avenue, right near me. I mean, that's what I'm aware of. But I mean, that's the kind of supervision that I'm talking about. I mean, you need a certain amount of personnel, and they're trying to sub out everything. So
Well, you've been saying that. I don't know if that's true or not. I just don't know. All I know is that, yeah, a lot of companies subcontract certain things, and I don't know if that's the reason or not. But I
They're
can tell you that,
There is a state, there is a state investigation into the whole matter. And,
Right.
Yeah,
I think there's as far as intermittent type of outages in Cheshire, I think the tree trimming over the last 10 years has helped that quite a bit. We used to have them like every month, but in these big storms, well, my understanding was they just didn't pre-position utility trucks and people in various towns in anticipation of the storm. They underestimated the storm, I guess. I think we all did to some degree, but
yeah. Well,
there's some blame there.
We used to have a member that was on one of those crews. I forget the gentleman's name. But he
Marty
was on
Roach.
the Energy Commission, and he said that Eversource did reduce the amount of, call them depots or garages in the state, and they spread them out more. So that's a known. But is that good or bad? I don't know. I think the storm was pretty excessive. I don't think you could really prepare for it any better. Maybe better, but the last storm we had, that windstorm we had a week ago over the weekend.
Yeah.
That I didn't get a power outage on that. I was surprised at that. So I think overall the tree trimming's been very well, and I've noticed a big difference over the last 10 years in the frequency of outages. But you're going to have a big storm now and then, and
Yeah, one of the main criticisms that I know against Eversource was their apparent lack of coordination, communication. I know that Sean Kimball was critical of them for not, seemed like they didn't know what story to tell. Everybody was getting a different story. They couldn't get information. They wouldn't answer the phone, whatever. I don't know. I mean, you'd have to talk to Sean about what those issues really were. But that's it. I mean, when you're sitting in the dark and you're trying to get an answer and there's nothing coming, it creates a lot of frustration and anger, especially if you're in the dark for 6 days or whatever.
The problem was, I mean, we were out for less than 20 hours, in the southern part of town, at least around our area. But some parts of town were out for 7 days.
I was out for 7 days.
Do you have more trees? I mean, I don't know. It's what was it? Just a couple of days ago, there was a tornado that ripped through northern or Bethany,
North Haven.
Bethany, and part of Cheshire, right?
Yeah, I think
And
it went
North
through Cheshire, knocked down 2 trees in my backyard.
Yeah, but I don't think
Yeah.
it touched on. I think it touched on Bethany and North Haven, really.
And I know North
Bethany. Yeah. Okay, so
What
that
bothers
is
me even more, Rich, is that's what 65% of my bill now is not source related, but supply related,
Distribution, yeah.
distribution related.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true also for gas. If you look at your gas bill, you'll see that the delivery of the commodity is twice the cost of the commodity. I don't know. I don't know what their budget's like. I don't know. I'm not responsible for their costs, but obviously they're a regulated utility and they are entitled to earn a return on investment. And Pura approves or disapproves, and they approve their rate structure. And what I understand is that you got FERC is involved, and FERC says you can do this, and Pura says, and everything all came together like a perfect storm in July or June. And it created a large bill for a lot of people, myself included. When you compare, you talk about benchmarking, you can compare my bill this year to my bill last year, even though my consumption was pretty much the same. My cost was, I don't know how much, 30% higher or whatever. So I that's the rate. We can't do anything about that. I know that there was complaints about that, and they were told by Pura that they had to roll back that price increase to what it was, the rate structure that was in place a month earlier. Whether they did that or not, I don't know. I think they did. I think my latest bill shows that they did.
Got it, Phil.
And on Cheshire Forum today, somebody was complaining that they didn't on his. I don't know. Maybe they didn't. Maybe they did. Who knows? It's all hearsay. All I know is they did. They did for me. And I don't know how long it's going to stay in place. Are they going to go back to the higher rate structure next month, 2 months? Are they never going to? I don't know. But they certainly created a lot of anger on doing what they did for whatever reason, whether it was a state regulator or a federal regulator allowing them to make those changes. They made them. You know, the fact that it's twice the cost to deliver is twice the cost of the supply isn't so much of a surprise, because it hasn't been quite twice as much, but it's always been about 60% of the bill was delivery and 40% was supply. And that's my recollection. So now 66% is delivery and 33% is supply.
That's why we like cogeneration, because
And there you go. That's the way to protect.
gas is a lot cheaper than electricity now.
Right. And if you have distributed generation, distributed resources, you're also not immune, but you're less likely to have outages due to storms, right? Because you've got on generation, which is one of the big advantages of having a cogen plant at the pool. Now, I don't know if that would work there, right? Because if the power goes out, the pool goes out too, right? Because it's right, Dan. Is that true?
That's correct. That cogen that has to have electric on the street side for it to run.
Yeah. And there are a lot of people who have solar panels that are wondering why they can't run those solar panels and power up their homes when the power goes out on the street. So maybe that's the next step. I mean, there's obvious ways around it. You put protective relays in so that you can't export power when the grid power is off. You know,
That's what a
And also-
microgrid is in
Yeah,
Thailand.
it- it also it brings up the idea of having battery storage, which Tim White used to talk about all the time when he was on the commission. And battery energy storage systems are becoming much more affordable and a lot more popular. And in fact, I tuned into a webinar last week about storage. Was it last week? It was last week. And there's an association called ESA, Energy Storage Association, and there were 2,500 people tuned into this webinar, and there was a lot of manufacturers and engineers and consultants and all people that are now getting involved in the storage industry, which is kind of exciting because, I mean, solar panels make a lot of sense, but they only are useful when it's sunny out. But if you could generate power and store it in a battery and use it any other time.
Like Dan mentioned a couple of meetings ago, down in Southwest, they got very good wind power resources, but they don't know what to do with it at night. Now, if they had ways of converting it to electricity or hydrogen, that would be a good storage
Yeah.
vehicle.
Right. So people are working on that, and it's not just batteries. Like you say, it could be there's other means of storing electric power other than a battery.
Yeah, you
And,
could wire up a generator in a microgrid. I mean, the pool could definitely be designed to be an emergency shelter with the power where there's always power after a big storm. I mean, if you put in the the islanding capability.
Yeah, you could charge your phone and take a swim. And they
Yeah.
were offering free phone charging
The
at Highland
shower.
School, right?
You
Right.
know, if you're gonna go a week without electricity, a lot of people don't get to wash. You know.
Sure, yeah. Okay, so I think that brings us to the end of the agenda and the end of the meeting, unless somebody has anything to add. Does anybody have anything to add? Okay, is
That
there,
one of the reasons
Yeah.
why I worked so much on the community choice aggregation was that EverSource is not going to lead us into making this change towards microgrids and islanding and a resilient distributed energy resources. That's not where their profit lies, and that's not where they want to take us. So
I think you're right. However, maybe they don't care. They'll just put in for a rate case and charge more for the customers that stay on the grid. I mean, they can do that. Just, you know, that's what they're allowed to do. It's return on assets or return on return on equity, return on whatever. They get a return, a guaranteed return, which is usually a reasonable percent. I mean, I don't think they're making a killing, but they're a large company that makes a lot of money, and they're also an investor-owned utility. So
Well, one of the reasons, what bothered me, one of the reasons they asked for the big increase was consumption was down because of the business decline by COVID. So they're trying to make money on COVID, you know, or make up money.
well, trying to maintain their profitability because they're they're investor-owned. And investors expect to, to get a good return on their money. And if they're, I mean, it's EverSource isn't responsible for COVID, right? And if their revenues go down and their costs don't go down, by an equivalent amount, and they don't show the profit, investors are going to walk. It's a business. It's not a charity. It's a business.
Yeah, but it's a public utility also.
it's a regulated monopoly.
It's a regulated monopoly. It's not you call it a public utility, but it's a utility, but it's a regulated utility, and it's a for-profit business. It's not a
Right. We don't have to maximize we don't have to worry about investors' rate of returns.
What, the town of Cheshire? You talking about the town of Cheshire or
Customers of EverSource? I mean, if they don't have a great rate of return because of COVID, they don't have my sympathies. They don't.
You can turn your lights off.
Well, yeah, just you can save money, energy.
Or
Don't use energy.
or
Well,
power.
like Carol Wilson.
they're not charging on use; they're charging on distribution.
Yeah.
No, they charge it per kilowatt hour.
Maybe they don't have good management also.
It's all per kilowatt hour. If you're a residential customer, not businesses so much, but everybody's paying, unless you have a demand charge, which I think very few of our town buildings do, and no residential customer does. You get charged per kilowatt hour. So whether it's supply or delivery, use fewer kilowatt hours, like George says. Just, don't turn your lights off. Do a full load of
in the dark.
laundry. What's that?
Do the Zoom meeting in the dark.
We do, I don't understand the rate process, but we do have various charges for, depending on what time of day. So isn't that a demand related?
Not for residential.
You can sign up for that.
No, for the town though. I know the town, sometimes we're paying, 25 cents a kilowatt hour, and sometimes we're paying 14,
I don't know about that.
Yeah.
Most of our bills are they rate 30? Dan, rate 35?
Let me look at
or-
here.
or 30, or 8:30 maybe. The high school is probably 35. Or maybe not.
It is variable, 'cause I mean, that was Tim White's whole push was to,
There is variable. There is like I was on this bill somewhere, but yeah, I mean, like there is different rates, and I know especially on the gas side where we pay different rates depending on consumption. I wouldn't expect it would be anything less.
It's time of day, time
Yeah.
of use, and
Yep.
certain rate classes charge more or less depending on the time of. But residential, no, unless Dan or Shannon Newton, you says you can
You can request
you
it.
can
They don't advertise it, but yes, you can do it, and it's like after 8, the rate goes down.
need
Yeah,
a
so
smart
we
meter.
paid a demand charge on a 0.1 kilowatt hours on this invoice that I'm looking at.
I mean, that's what Tim White was proposing, to get battery storage and then put it to battery use during the peak hours, when the AC was high and et cetera, et cetera.
well, yeah, that's sort of correct. But he was just saying you can shave, peak shave.
Whatever
Peak
that means.
they turn, take 50 kilowatts off your peak or whatever, and transfer it over to the battery. If you have a battery that lasts long enough, because most of these peak demand charges, they're for very short durations. You could set a peak demand. Well, it has to be over a 30-minute period, but you could literally set your peak demand, which you'd have to pay a ratchet for a year, in a matter of minutes, but lots of minutes, 30 minutes maybe. And so he was suggesting that if you see that you're going to approach a new peak, use the battery to shave the peak. You could also do that with a cogen or an engine generator.
Right.
But
yeah, and
not-
a whole nother aspect to that, in that the whole, when they buy energy for Cheshire, there's a peak demand, and they have to buy enough energy well and above that peak. And so if you can, as a community, keep your peaks down, then you can save, you cannot be required to buy as much electricity as a whole block when they go out and bid for the.
Yeah, you're talking community choice, I think, or referring to. One of the features of that is to negotiate with a power broker for a certain amount of energy, and there may be some economies of scale or whatever, but we're so far away from choice that you should continue to invest.
But it's one of the reasons for it is that is exactly like you're saying, to reduce those peaks, and there's different ways of doing it, and some are like to heat your water off peak, because your hot water heater stores that energy for quite a long time. So if you can shift loads, then as a community you can flatten that curve and not have to buy as much electricity. And it's a savings that can only be kind of garnered as a community together, and it's only going to be returned to the community if you have something like community choice aggregation. But in if we just did that as Cheshire, we took it upon ourselves and we flattened our curve, then Eversource would reap those benefits.
Yeah, I get it. And if you expect the entire town of Cheshire to cooperate and do their laundry at night or their dishwashing before peak hours, I don't know. Maybe it'll work, maybe not. Maybe it would require a tremendous amount of cooperation and coordination to make something like that really work, I think.
Right.
I mean, you're
And
right.
A lot of it has to be
Post it on
like
that website, and everybody will do it.
it's a lot of it, you can't, people aren't going to do it actively, but you can convince people to do it, if they don't have to do anything for, if you install electronics that shed those loads at those needed times, it turns off that hot water heater. And
Yeah,
there
well, let me-
are some big loads in town that could be shifted. So
Are you talking about municipal or residential or
Both.
non-municipal?
both.
I mean, municipal, you have a lot more leverage. Getting other people, private citizens and businesses to cooperate. Maybe I can tell you, I'm going to close with my Nest story. Did anybody have a Nest thermostat? No? Nest. All right, get a Nest thermostat. It's internet enabled. And I signed up for a program. I got $25 from Eversource, and allows them to make changes to my thermostat when they need
Right.
to. And they've done that. And Nest also can do it. I mean, Eversource can send out a summer savings something, I don't know. And I could sit there and I can see the temperature setting on my thermostat goes to where they want it to go.
As you
So if I have it set for 78, I'll turn around and there it is at 83. My wife comes along and sets it back to 70. Because she is no, because some people don't like other people making their decisions for them, right? Well, I tried to get along with it as best I could, but it is possible if you have a Nest thermostat, and there may be some other. It's not a commercial for Nest, but there may be other smart thermostats that can do the same thing as Nest. I don't know, but I got $25 from Eversource to agree to allow them to do that
A one-time
Signed up.
$25.
one time. Yeah. Well, I don't know if they'll do it again next year or not, but
I
so
make a
anyway,
motion
that's
that we adjourn.
good idea. Anybody second? Second? Who wants to second?
Go
Walt,
Bruins.
say-
Oh,
Thank
yeah.
you all for joining. Appreciate it. Have a good evening. See you next month. Thank you.
Yeah.
Take care,
folks.
Bye-bye.